Shalom to Derek Van Orden, Republican U.S. Congressman from Wisconsin. Welcome to Israel.
Well, it's great to be here. I wish it was under different circumstances.
Right, so I'll start with thank you. Thank you for coming here. You decided to come to Israel because of the situation.
That's correct. I was in the United States military for 26 years. I was a Navy SEAL. And after I retired in 2014, I made a promise to the Jewish people that if something were to happen like October 7th, that I would come to help Israel. And so I'm here to fulfill that promise. I was never in politics. I had no idea I would be a United States Congressman when this happened, but that's irrelevant. So I came here to fulfill a promise to the Jewish people, and because of my position as a U.S. Congressman, I think I'll be able to be much more effective now.
So tell me about the places you visit, the people you met.
Oh my gosh.
During these days.
I have multiple combat tours around the world, and we went to the kibbutz that were attacked. We went to the rave that was attacked. We spoke to people, and the stories that came out of that were the most horrific things I've heard in my entire life over all of my combat experience throughout the Middle East. I spoke to a grandpa who helped defend his grandchildren for 16 hours with one other Israeli. I spoke to another man whose two boys, they weren't even in the army. They heard fighting. Their wives pled with them not to go, but they took pistols and they charged into the terrorists, the Hamas terrorists. Both of them were killed. And one of them was burnt so badly that they had to use DNA from his twin brother to identify his body. But that man was standing with a rifle in his hand. So what I would like the Jewish people to know are two things. One, the United States of America, particularly the party that I'm affiliated with, the Republican Party, are standing strong with Israel. And we will stand with Israel from the beginning to the end. And the other thing that the people, Jewish people need to know is that now is the time for strength. And that they have the strength and the wherewithal, and they've proven this throughout their history, that they're going to get through this. And it's going to be a very dark time for a while. People are going to have to do things that they never thought they'd have to. Children are going to be exposed to things that they should never have to have been exposed to. But unfortunately, due to the terrorist attacks, they're going to have to. And I have the full confidence in the Jewish people that they will stand and overcome these horrific events.
Now, you mentioned the support. How do you look at the support of the Biden administration? Biden's words moved Israelis and Jews around the world. We can see people sharing the Biden speech in support of Israel. But now there is feeling, or at least fears, that this whole support comes with demands, conditions. How do you look at the support as we've seen so far?
The words were fantastic. The actions are proving to not be so. When he had an interview, when he did the press conference with the Prime Minister, and then he immediately vowed to give Hamas $100 million. And they say the Palestinian authorities, but we know that the Palestinians in Gaza elected Hamas. So those are contradictory messages, and we need to make sure that we speak with one single message. And that's why it's important for people to know that if the Biden administration wavers, Erdogan just came out, who's a NATO member, calling Hamas a liberation movement. There's been some other people speaking, starting to change their tune. There's a group of politicians in the United States of America, I being one of them, that will always stand with Israel.
We heard the UN Secretary General yesterday with statements that were surprised some. Some said it's not a surprise at all.
Well, for me, it's not a surprise. If you look at Israel, the size of Israel, how many UN resolutions have gone against Israel compared to the rest of the entire planet? So the United Nations itself has proven repeatedly to be a body that is not friendly to Israel. That's just a fact. That's not a political statement. So I would prefer that the Biden administration gives a very steady and consistent a very consistent tone, meaning if they say you're going to support Israel, then support Israel and stop giving money to Hamas. You just simply can't do those things. And this is how I try to frame it for people back in America, because I come from a very rural district. We just spoke to the Minister of Agriculture, and I did that because I'm from a very rural district, but I try to explain things to Americans along this manner. If the United States of America, let's say San Diego, was being attacked by a terrorist group that was being harbored by Mexico, and the Prime Minister of Israel called the President of the United States and said, hey, look, you need to temper what you're doing there. Let's be careful. And by the way, I'm going to send the terrorist group $100 million. What would the American president's response be to the Prime Minister of Israel? And this is going to sound harsh, but we have to understand that when the Allies were fighting the Axis powers during World War II, at no time did Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Winston Churchill say that they needed to rush humanitarian aid to Nazi Germany or to fascist Italy or to the Empire of Japan. People need to understand that this is war. And it is the most brutal form of warfare, again, that I have ever seen in my entire life. And I was in the service for 26 years with multiple combat tours.
How do you see, really, how do you look at the hostage crisis?
It's hard to express. And it's a very hard truth. We just lost our daughter 2 months ago. Our oldest daughter died of cancer. And so I want people to understand that when I say what I'm going to say. Having just lost a child. The chances of recovering the hostages, all of the hostages, is bleak. Because these terrorists have fortified Gaza to a level where it's nearly impenetrable. And if you're sending soldiers in, sailors, Marines, any of your groups in there, it's going to be very, very difficult to recover these hostages alive. And that truly breaks my heart because I know what it's like to lose a child. So I want people to have hope, but I also want them to have realistic expectations.
So let's end with the hope, because you met also the soldiers. You saw what's going out there in the South. They're coming together, recruiting, reserves, of course, from around the country. It's amazing.
I just got goosebumps when you said that because it is amazing. I think you called for 100,000 or so reservists and 350,000 reservists showed up. We made sandwiches for soldiers yesterday. It's a spontaneous group. We went and helped harvest olives. Actually, the kids were harvesting olives. I was looking at them harvesting olives. But you had a bunch of 18-year-olds volunteering because the Palestinians aren't coming over to conduct a harvest. So when you have tens of thousands and really hundreds of thousands of your citizens come together, it is a unique thing, and that is unique to Israel, and you should be proud of that. But I also want to say there's going to be some dark days ahead. But the Jewish people have shown throughout your entire history, for millennia, that you're capable of coming through the most harsh, horrible circumstances, and you come out a better people. And the last thing I want to say, I'm going to look right in the camera. There are multiple people, and there's tens of thousands and millions of Americans that are here to support you. And we will not waver. We will be with you from the beginning to the end, because an attack on the Jewish people is an attack on the American people, and that's an attack on freedom, and that will not stand.
U.S. Congressman Derek Van Orden, thank you very much for the interview. But above all, thank you for coming here.
You're absolutely welcome. Yeah. Shalom.